What does it mean to master the game of life? Like any game, it requires a fundamental understanding and application of the rules. But living in today's on-demand society is making this nearly impossible as our attention is increasingly being fought over and monetized by others. Will Moore's mission is to help you hit the reset button by providing a new set of game rules based on time-proven universal principles and modern science to gamify your life by making it fun and addictive to replace your habits in the 5 core areas of your life proven to lead to true happiness. Ready, player one?
Hello all, welcome to another fun, value-packed episode of Gamify Your Habits Live. Don't forget, we do this live, everybody. If you're listening to it on a podcast, check out our IG channel, Gamify Your Habits. We do it live every Wednesday at 10:45 a.m. CST, which is where we have landed today. We like to talk about a little mix of behavioral science, principles. Let's throw a little technology in there and really figure out what it takes to hack the mind, to build the motivation, the momentum that's going to allow you to level up in life. So today I'm super excited. We've got an awesome guest. His name is Mr. Ashley Latimore Jr., and he is a lot of things. Professional heavyweight boxer, which I think is really interesting. I grew up, my dad loved boxing. I watched it all the time. Was super into Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. So I've never had a boxer on the show. Excited to talk to him. And he's also a competitive chess player. So opposite ends of the spectrum there. Best-selling author. And he's somebody that has gone through sobriety and come out the other side and lived to tell about it and has some lessons to share with everybody, which is another thing that hits home for me because my mother was a alcoholic growing up severely, and that's also runs in my family along with my grandparents. Luckily, I was aware of it early on and vowed not to do that, and so I've managed to skate around that, but it's always there lingering in the background. So without further ado, hey man.
Hey, how are you, man?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. One small slight correction. That's never happened, but maybe I'll do it and go by my first name is Edward. My middle name is Ashley. I wonder where that's written though, because I thought I changed it on my.
Yeah, so I have Edward Ashley Latimore Jr. What did I say? Ashley Latimore Jr.
You said Ashley Latimore Jr. Yeah, I wonder where it's at. That
it's my assistant. So yeah, I apologize.
Oh, you know what? I know where it's at. It's probably in my Calendly thing. I had to spot to set schedule. Yeah, that's cool. No, I really like my name, all aspects of it. I never thought about going by Ashley, but hearing that introduction, that's kind of cool. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it rolled right off my tongue. I'm down with it. Right? It's sort of like, am I Ashley? Am I Edward? Am I Latimore?
Yeah, because especially in this day and age where there's a large number of people, certainly more than the average person follows or knows who I am or knows who you are. And sometimes that's kind of cool, I think. I don't think I'll ever be famous enough. I don't know if you're remembering the show. I can't remember. The one where the guy was the actor out in Hollywood, and it was on HBO and everything like that. The agent, RRA Gold.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. It'll come to me too. I'm drawing a blank, but I know.
The actor's name was Vince. I remember everything. I just can't remember. But he had him in his phone as something else. So in case his phone was ever stolen, people couldn't go. You know, like I'd imagine that somebody has whoever Leonardo DiCaprio's agent is.
Right.
I'd imagine he doesn't have Leonardo DiCaprio right there in the phone like that kind of deal.
Right.
So,
Leonardo DiCaprio, and then like parentheses movie actor. Probably does not have it that way. I love it. Well, let's get right into it, man. Thanks for being on. I love a lot of aspects of your life, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I'm always fascinated by people that share aspects of struggles and things I've gone through, as well as have excelled in areas that I've always admired. So, I mentioned the boxing. I think it's really neat. I want to talk about that. Alcoholism in my family is a big one, and my mom and my grandparents. And, it's a lot of family members.
Staying away from it. That's why I never tried hard drugs. And a lot of people find this strange considering what the stats are for alcoholics. I didn't drink until I was 18, largely because of the stuff I grew up around, but then other forces enter. But I thought that's a smart play.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was one of those things, alcoholism, when I didn't think
I had to worry about it, and I was like, oh, I don't have that gene. And then I got to college, and it was like everybody was drinking, and binge drinking is just kind of like what you do. And it's just like anything else, a vice and an addiction. For some people, they can turn it on and off. And I found like I wanted to like start binge drinking every night. I'm like, uh-oh, wait a minute here.
Yes, it's wild how that works. And here's what's the craziest thing. We normalize so much of this. If you look at the way, like what a person's behavior is if they are an alcoholic, 1 in 8 people exhibit those drinking patterns, but they don't consider themselves alcoholics. That's a significant amount of the population. I think that works out 12.5%. And then within the college age group, 18 to 24 is roughly how that's broken down, although most of us graduate, if we take the traditional route, before the age of 24. You look at those numbers, and it's even higher. It's like 25% of people in that age group have reported binge drinking at least once in the past week. And that is insanity.
It really is. Yeah. And it's something where it just creeps up on you so easily. And especially, as you know, I'm sure, did you have a genetic component?
I may have not. I know I had a social component. And when I say that, we'll actually go social economic.
Yeah, nature versus nurture, right? Your environment.
Your typical at-risk youth kid grew up in the projects, raised by a single mom. Everybody on my mom's side of the family has been in prison a lot of times, or at least all the men have been in jail for significant stretches. None of the men on the dad's side of my family that I know of, but they're not around either. I don't really. If I calculate the time out with my dad, like it would be disingenuous to say like I was like a bastard, like my dad was never around, I knew who he was. But to say he had a hand in raising me, I mean, that would be inaccurate to the point of disrespecting the work my mom did. He just wasn't there. He didn't even live in the same city. Probably saw him once or twice a year for a short amount of time. And what a lot of people don't appreciate, don't understand, is when you grow up in that environment, there is no support. You really are like fending for yourself in a lot of ways and dealing with things. And one of the things that just makes you much more susceptible to alcoholism, the adult childhood, ACE, I can't remember what it stands for, but it'll come to me. Childhood trauma meter, though. They're events. And if you look at guys in prison, they all have at least most of the ones I had. I think the only thing I didn't deal with, I was never sexually abused, to my knowledge, of course. But like, other than that, the physical abuse, the single mom, the alcohol, the drugs in the home, the regular violence surrounding, all of this has a toll on you, and you don't realize it. You think you're okay, and then you leave that environment, and you realize you ain't okay.
Yeah.
And then you get to sort these things out, and I'm happy I sorted them out without prison time or hurting someone. The two things that make continuing living.
Yeah, you're one of the lucky ones, right? So let's pause on this for a second. So just the importance of environment, obviously nature versus nurture, genetics is important, environment's important. I think there'll be a never ending debate of which is more important. To me, I don't think it really matters. It's understanding that there's both probably come into play and how they are coming into play. And so something you said just really clicked with me. And I think this is so true for the environment nurture portion. Like when you're in a certain environment where everything is just status quo and normal to you, no matter what that behavior is, like that's what everybody's doing and that's what you're doing. It's not like you can see this is so unhealthy for me and I'm killing myself. There might be an aspect of like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but until you step out and like look from a 10,000 foot view and go, oh my God, like what am I doing? Right.
And it's nuts. So one of the things that really changed the trajectory of my life when I was 13, 14, I went to a high school completely across town. I had to take 2 city buses, an hour each way to go. And this was all my choice. But it was a completely different socioeconomic bracket. I went from all the kids I went to school with and knew my whole life, being born in projects or really low income areas in a similar situation, to like all of my friends today, 2-parent households, middle class or upper middle, lower upper. And that slowly fostered this resentment because for the first time in my life, I'm like seeing things that I didn't even know existed. And a lot of what I did know, I was like, wow, people do live like this. This is not just something on TV. This is like 2 parents in the house, jobs, not getting your ass kicked every time you do something wrong. Like There's real stuff. I thought it was weird that these kids had never been in street fights. And when I say street fights, I don't mean like tug. I mean like all out. Like people used to show up in droves like a damn mob to my door. They're like, we got to fight. It's stressful stuff. But over time, seeing that adjusting, just getting a little different, because it doesn't change you overnight. You're undoing 14 years of what you know. Plus, I'm still going home. It's not like I was spending all my time, and I'm still going home and battling that. But I didn't realize how deep this ran until I started talking with my sister more as an adult in our late 20s. And our conversations went from, like, was it really that bad? Like, why do you think it was that bad? I don't understand. I don't get it. She's finally starting to get it. And the big difference is my sister never broke from the environment. Like, her friends are all the friends she had growing up as a little kid. I don't have any friends from before age 14. That's the difference. I went to a school way across town. She went to the feeder school system, whatever. She never got to see different until she actually started spending time around me. And at first it led her to question it. My mom hated that I wrote about my childhood because she had her own image of things. And I always said to her, one day she wrote me a email like, I had to leave your list. I can't deal with these exaggerations or stories. I'm like, well, you tell me where I've lied. Please tell me where I was dishonest or I exaggerated, and I swear I will correct it. And you're right. And she got angry about that and couldn't do it because I wasn't.
Oh yeah, I just had this conversation earlier, sorry to interrupt you, about like it's really hard for people to look in the mirror and see what's really going on, right? So I can imagine for a parent, the ugliest thing they could possibly see is that they did a bad job, or let's not call it a bad job, that they did some horrific things throughout childhood. Same with mine. I told you my mom was an alcoholic, and fortunately for me, she was able to beat it, and now she can look back and just be genuinely, we can talk about it, and she's remorseful, but she didn't go through that phase of like, nope, that didn't happen. But that's a lot more common than not.
Way more common, and you don't realize, because for a while I would question certain things because my friends' family, they're all polite. They're not gonna say certain things to me. So I had to really sit and think about this, and I'm like, am I exaggerating? Was it really this bad? And then I'll see someone else go through a similar thing, and I'll go, wow, that's fucked up, man. And remember that I went through the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's problematic. Especially now, because there's a 5 and some odd change month old. Actually, he'll be 6 months on the 18th. My son.
Congrats.
First
nice.
child. Thank you. One of the things that this has done is I didn't expect this effect, but it has really made me an even harsher judge of my parents. Both my parents are gone. But I look back at them and I go, how could you? Like, I look at my dad and I go, how could you just leave? Like, I don't even like leaving the house too long. I want to come back and God and teach them. And that's a responsibility. So for you to feel comfortable just existing across the state and letting us, because that's how we ended up, not how, but, we lived in the project. It's not like we run a nice area. And be like, no desire to help is crazy to me. And then I look at my mom and I go, the inability for you to go, let's make our lives better. That never happened. But one of the things I had to tell my sister, I'm like, you've never seen someone struggle to overcome a problem or do it. So you don't know how to do it, which set her back, and now she's getting better at it. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. When you see other things, you go, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is let's pause on it for a second, because it's such an important thing, because I did the same thing, right? I've got 3 small boys. One of them's 11 months. So I'm close to where you are. And I've now gone through this 3 times. My oldest is 7. And I mean, talk about a slap in the face of like becoming an adult and just being responsible and realizing that it's not all about you, and life is, your kids just change all that. I don't think you have to have kids to get all that, but it sure is a quick, easy, great way to get all that, right? And then it's like, oh, so this is what life's about. Like, it's about showing this person how to be the best little person he can be, so he grows up happy and avoids all the mistakes I had. And then, then you start looking at your parents and you're like, how could they? Here's the thing that I think is important for anybody listening to understand, which is basically like, it's not their fault right? To resent and hold on to hatred, it isn't going to help you, especially if they're gone. It's a broken system that we're all living in, and certain parts are more broken than others. I can only imagine where you grew up. Talk about a super broken system. I call it the failure loop, right? Like, you're caught in these failure habits that are stemming from your influencers, like your parents, the people you hang out with, like your schoolmate, what you're learning, all these things, just like we were talking about earlier, stepping outside of your 10K view, like they all come into play. And then all of a sudden your habits, it's just, that's who you are, because you're hanging out with all these people and that's their habits. And then they become your habits. And then you pass those on to your offspring and you don't even realize that they're bad.
Yeah. That is the part I don't want to say I struggle with. I put a lot of work into while my mom was alive, because my dad died when I was 18. My mom, 2 years, I think, 2021, Christmas-ish, around then. So almost 2 years she's been gone. And one of the things I put a lot of work into, because every time I come back to it, I go, well, I have to assume she did the best she could. And when you look at that, then you go, well, where did she learn what to do, what were her influences? And then I look back and I see, oh, well, I know how her grandmother was, or my grandmother, I know how her mother was, and the things she had to deal with. And I just go, I'm fortunate. When I look at my son, I go, well, all the nonsense that led to me being born, I get to now stop that. And so in 5 or 6 generations down the line, hopefully everyone's at the very least not starting behind the, but I don't think that'll happen.
No, your kids are going to be in much better. That just goes back to our earlier conversation, the nature versus nurture. Like, you're now giving your kids that head start that you didn't have. And I think, like you said, as parents, you think, how can my parents not do that? But you know what? At least you're breaking that failure loop. They don't know, right? At least you became aware, you snapped out of it, and now you're going to break that cycle where you would have passed the same stuff down to them, and it would have been caught in this never ending, right? But now you're going to show your kids, like, hey, this is what happiness is about. This is what it takes to be a productive member of society that has great relationships and physical health and all these things.
Just being a present father is going to make a difference. Like,
yeah, right. Start with the basics. No doubt.
Like, it's really crazy when you look at the research on everything we know about the father in the home. When you adjust for income, everything, there is nothing worse for the outcome of a child. Like, you can be poor. Being poor is not that big of a deal. Do they have support? Do they have the two parent? Because like you said, you're going through this for the 3rd time. I couldn't imagine doing this single. Like,
right.
I mean, obviously it's done, but goodness gracious, like little things, like being able to eat well so you're not crazy. Well, you need somebody to take care of the kid. I mean, just go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, dude, it's wild, right? And boys are another level. Just you wait. You know, they say girls are easier when they're littler, and then they get in their teens, and then that's when the guys kind of tend to be easier when they get older. We'll see. But for me, the last 7 years have been, like you just said, I don't even know who I am, but it's the best, and I've learned so much, right? It's the worst and the best. I always tell people, like, that's the best way to describe being a parent. It can be the worst, but it can be the best. And when you add it all up, though, like, the good definitely outweighs the bad.
You know, one day I'm going to be 60-something, maybe 70, God willing, 80 or 90, and it'll be cool to have someone, because by that point, he'll understand the little times he's mad at me for this or that, or he'll understand the overall effect and be grateful for where he is. And so it'll be cool, like, to have someone come over for dinner.
I love it.
I hope.
Total 100%, man. I know. I think about that stuff too. Like, is my kid gonna have a family and a wife one day, and I'm gonna come over as like grandpa, and I don't have to worry about cleaning up diapers and stuff, and just get to enjoy it?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. So let's get into some questions here. So we've kind of already talked about. I like to ask my guests like some of the biggest failure habits that they learned on their journey as they were growing, and before they've had that moment of like, okay, I need to pivot here in my life. You know, obviously you are aware of some of the ones your parents had. Were there ones in particular that you had developed that you had to overcome?
Yeah. I mean, aside from alcohol, one of the big issues I had is I think that is part of what led me to drink. But in general, that's a hard one to overcome, because here's the thing. Either you're going to behave in a way that is not conducive to your best self, so you don't feel lonely. I hated being alone, as weird as that sounds. Because now I look at the person I am now, and I'm like, that's crazy, but I was that guy. I hated being alone. So whatever it took to not be alone, which often meant drinking or spending time with low-quality people. One of my friends has a great saying. He's like, better to drink with assholes than drink alone. I got it. Like, when he said it, I'm like, yeah, that resonated. Or there was an experience in my life, mostly a positive. I got recruited as an amateur boxer. I got recruited after I won the state here for PA and placed pretty high in the nationals. I got recruited for this group out in California. They were training athletes and trying to get someone to the Olympics. And I beat their top guy from California. And as a result, they were like, all right, you want to come out, give it a go? And I said, heck yeah, because I was broke. And they were paying like good money. So I went and did it, but it was in Carson, California. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Los Angeles area or not. Carson is the next to the last one before you hit Long Beach, which is huge. But it's away from what would be considered the concentrated areas of LA, downtown, Burbank, Santa Monica, or even the South Bay cities. So I was pretty isolated, but I also had a suspended license, so I couldn't go anywhere. So I had to cope with being real lonely. And I drank a lot when I was lonely, because I didn't know how to deal with this. That was a real big one. When I got over that, though, that allowed me to make some choices that ultimately changed my life. Big ones, too. The two biggest ones being getting sober, because that was one of the reasons I didn't do it. I mean, I knew I had an issue, but what outweighed that was the fear of nobody socializing with me. And I said, nah, I can do it now. And being able to join the military. When I joined the military, that is what actually allowed me to, when I talk about this in my TED Talk, when I was in the military, that was the first time in my adult life that I was making new relationships and building connections where alcohol was not an option. It just wasn't in there. 10 weeks of basic, then 22 weeks of AIT, and not a drink in sight. So that, I said, wow, you can be an interesting, cool, fun person. People like you, and there's no alcohol involved, because I was a fun guy and really made a lot of good friends that are still my friends today.
Wow. I want to pause there real quick. That's just so powerful, because it's like you were fortunate that you were taken out of the environment that you were in. We talked about this earlier. Your nurture part was like, okay, this is my environment. This is what I do. And my buddy's saying that, better to drink with assholes than alone. Like, of course it is, right? If you'd never been taken out of that, if you never got that opportunity that you got, where all of a sudden you're weighing, well, do I really need this? I don't want to take away from you, because it's still a very difficult thing to do, to stop drinking. But when you had that moment, and it was like an epiphany of, wow, I can have just as much fun. People like me just as much, maybe even more. I feel better. I look better, right? Like, without the alcohol. And it's like, boom. And it's very difficult for a lot of people to even picture a world where that happens. But it really goes back to that cliche saying of, you are who you hang out with, and your environment is so important. So if you want to change the habits you have to change your environment, and one way or another. How you do that, that's up to you.
Hardest thing. People always ask me, like, why is your sobriety date like December 23rd? Why didn't you wait till the new year? Well, one, because I probably wouldn't have made it, to be honest with you. And then on top of that, go hard or go home, man. That was the year I got back from all my training. I've been gone. I would have went crazy. But there's another more significant reason for that date. So when I enlisted January 4th, 2013, and the MOS that I wanted, because the Army's got everything like out for like 5 years timed up. It's kind of crazy, actually. I had to wait to leave until June 4th for basic. And that changed my life too in a lot of ways, mainly how I ended up forming a strong relationship with Anna, and why we have a kid now and all this good stuff, right? But that meant that my basic would end in August, and then my AIT would, they actually cut it short because it would have went to the new year. And how the Army works is that even if you're in TRADOC, which is the acronym for all the training before you're a soldier, you still go home during Christmas. That's like the one thing that they do. And so they're like, we're not even going to have you come on for this. Like, come back. We're just going to accelerate the course and get you out of here on December 18th. So I went and did that. I came home. I was like, yay, I can drink again. And went out and partied and hated myself. Couldn't remember how I got where I got. And that is why it timed up then, because it was like, I think I got back like the 19th or 18th. And then I went out the 22nd and the 23rd. I was like, oh, this is such a bad idea. And I had stuff from the line to lose too. That also really helped.
God, yeah. Again, it's such a unfortunate experience because then you get taken out of it, and then you do that old failure habit, and you go, "What the f? I feel terrible and awful." Meanwhile, like when you were in it, you didn't feel that way. It was kind of like, "This is our status quo." Okay, well, that's a big one. Let's get more into the boxing a little bit. So, how did you start boxing? Sounds like you had an opportunity that really helped to pivot your life into a good direction. You were taken out of your environment, put into this new environment because of boxing, it sounds like. Where did that all start?
So it's funny, man. I started late. I started at the age of 22, which now is a heavyweight. That's actually a little more common, but no one would say that's the norm. And the reason why I started fighting, I had already dropped out of college once. I went back later, but when I dropped out, I was on this kick about just how stupid and pointless college was. And I would say it to anybody who listened. And one of those people that listened was the mother of the girl I was dating at the time. And she's a college professor. And so she said to me, let's pretend you're right. And college is a waste of time. What have you done with your life for the past 4 years besides show up here and eat my food? And then she threw me out. And I went home and I cried a little bit, but I was like, she's exactly right. I have no sweat equity, is how I call it, right? Like if I died today, what would they say about me? And so I was like, let me find something to do. So I looked at 2 ways to enrich my life because at that point, all I was doing, I was working at Starbucks for what my life was. So I said, I can either join the Army or I can box. Now one of these were the 2 options. One, I didn't have any confidence in my academic ability, and I didn't have the funds. So college wasn't an option. Any job was a job. If it wasn't a job, it needed a degree. And since I wasn't going to go back to college, it was that. But I could go to the Army because they would pay me and I would do something. But YouTube had just come out, and they were showing me, you could go look at fights. And I said, that looks like something I could try, I could do. Let's see how that goes. And I decided boxing because that was right around when we had just started invading Iraq. And I was like, fuck that. So I went and found a gym and I stuck with it. And that experience, you want to talk about like watershed moments where you couldn't imagine your life today if you hadn't done a certain thing. Now, obviously, everything has kind of this effect, but there are these big events. And like, for example, where I went to high school, if I had gone to the high school that I'm supposed to go, let's assume I didn't get shot, I wouldn't have the close friends and relationships that I have today that changed my life. Boxing is one of those things. And I'm so happy I started doing that. Because my attitude when I went into fighting, I said, I'm not going to quit, but I'm just going to keep trying to get better. Because I wasn't a natural athlete. Like everything I can do in fighting now and have figured out. I mean, my old videos, man, I am like a clumsy dude, but I don't mind working hard. That's pretty much it. But I stuck with it, and I had some really good success. Made some smart decisions, got lucky a few times, and it really worked out for me.
Wow. I love it, man. That's really cool. So how long did you end up doing it for?
So my amateur career lasted, I never realized that until now. My pro debut was January 26, 2013, but I started when I was 20, so I was an amateur for 6 years. And then my last fight, my last time in the ring professionally was December 16th, 2016. So I was a pro for 3 years. And then I took a year off because I was in the middle of getting my degree, went back to school for real, and was really busting my ass. And look, man, here's the thing so my degree's in physics. You can't phone that in, man. My coach wasn't happy I was going to school at the same time, Like there was one day we got into an argument. We got into a few arguments around this. I was at the weigh-in. I was working on a problem because I had an assignment due, and they didn't care that I was fighting. I was like, look, man, I got to do this. And he's like, look, man, you got to concentrate and fight all this, right? So was doing that, took that year off, and then I came back and I was getting ready for a fight in 2018 and got injured. And I said, my life had changed so much. And my coach sat me down and was like, I don't know if you know this, but you don't have to do this anymore. And, and I thought about it and took some time off. Now, what's funny, we can talk about this more if you want. I'm definitely going to be fighting again, definitely in the next 2 years, ideally in the next one. It's just a matter of how long it takes to get my body in shape. But that's after what will be a 7-year layoff, and I'm very curious to see how it goes and the things I've figured out and learned in the interim.
Well, I love it. I love that you're giving it another go, right? You're as old as you look and feel, and these days, numbers, it's not like, I feel like our parents' generation and your parents, I just remember the age I am now. I'm 47. I just remember thinking when I was a kid, like, oh my God, like, am I still going to be alive at 47? I mean, there's a few more aches and pains sometimes when I do heavy sports, but in general, I mean, I feel great and I can still do it, and I'm going to keep doing it while I can still do it.
Yeah, like we're in a great era, man. Knowledge is decentralized, and so if you're willing to put the work, the skill you need to have now is the ability to like read studies and source stuff and compare sources and recognize biases. And then from there, be able to process, parse, and sometimes solve problems because they haven't been solved yet. There's just research out there. But what I say, what I have to say, there's so much that we know about the body now and how the body just works. And more importantly, what deteriorates it, what does not deteriorate it, what actually reinvigorates it. That's why you see so many athletes in most other sports because they've had that technology for a while. With a notable exception of like the skill positions in football, a lot of guys play their sport to their late 30s, early 40s. Football is like the rare exception where you don't have a bracket of guys over 35 outside of quarterback competing. And we've realized this in other sports. And I look and I see, I go, okay, well, what really changes? What's different about my body now at 38 than it was when I stopped fighting at 31? Nothing. And that's the weirdest thought, but from everything we know, nothing is different. In fact, because I spent my 20s battering myself, getting punched and drinking, I am likely operating at a higher capacity than I was then because I've had almost 7 years to really heal. Like, I didn't drink at all during my professional career. But it was only 3 years when it was going on. But my amateur career was 6, and I was a heavy drinker then. And so my body is even more healed, more recovered. I know more about training. I know from coaching guys. I know more about how to fight, which is probably more important than the conditioning aspect. But there's a lot of stuff that comes into that. And the TLDR is exactly what you said. You're only as old as you feel, and as long as you're not battling an injury or a chronic issue, then 38 is. There's a reason why Bernard Hopkins fought till he was like 51, man, and was winning.
I know, man. I know. You see some of these athletes, like Tom Brady's my age, and a lot of these athletes it would never even have been fathomable. Tiger Woods, a few years older than me.
I mean,
he's had his issues, but
so much stuff. Like even if you get injured, let's forget the stem cells, which is another thing. You can get platelet-rich plasma that accelerates your healing. And that's just the regular, take the blood out, spin the blood down, shoot the platelets back. That's incredible. We have so many more supplements. We know so much about nutrition. And that's like one of my obsessions is that kind of thing. Every now and then I toy with the idea of going and getting my master's or starting a doctorate program in that stuff. And then I remember that I'd have to go back into the institution, and that's definitely not what I'm trying to do. I don't have this crazy desire to change the world. I have this desire to use this stuff to change myself. So at least in this regard. So yeah, but great stuff, Cog. But not just on the physical level, the mental stuff too, cognitive, the whole field of nootropics, like that stuff is serious. You know, to the point, here, I always, the joke, and it's not really a joke, is it's mostly serious, but it's a joke I tell to the guys in the fitness community. If you want to know if something actually works, see if it's on the World Anti-Doping Agency list. If it's on WADA, you probably should use it. If it's not, it probably isn't worth much. There are some notable exceptions like creatine, but for the most part, if it makes it on WADA, it definitely gives you an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
And now that doesn't mean it's illegal. That just means you can't use it competing.
Right.
And some of the nootropic substances are on there. I mean, there's stuff you can do. Now it's like in competition versus ever versus like during training. Those are like the three distinctions they look at whether something's useful or not, or the level of restriction.
Right. So what is your overall take on that stuff? You're saying you should use that or you shouldn't use that stuff?
Oh, man. Okay. So in a perfect world, it would be like bodybuilding. How there's natty bodybuilding and there's not natty. Everyone looks like they get it. They understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But in sports, there's so much money, and you're not going to create this like a natty and non-natty NFL. So you have to go with the one where the safety profile is highest and you appeal to the most amount of people, because everybody wants an advantage. But there's a lot of guys who really take a lot of pride. It's not about winning. It's about how they do it. It's not about, oh, I got the fastest 40 or the biggest bench. It's did I put the work in? Otherwise, yeah, you would just take some Trenbolone and you'd be all right in the meal. All right? You'd be there. All right. So I don't think that stuff, in a perfect world, you would just create two divisions. But since we can't do that, practically speaking, I think the way they have it set up now is fine. Now, what I will say is that the WADA tends to be a little, they have weed on there, okay? I understand for like shooting sports, that probably gives you an advantage, or an alcohol too. It gives you an advantage because you can calm your nerves down and create a steadier shot. But if I test for booze in a fight and you strip me of the title, I think if I beat a dude drunk, you probably should do something about it. His license,
yeah,
not
that's a
mine.
good point. I guess it's all case specific, but I think, right, it's probably, they don't want to get into the trying to break it into, well, it's okay here and not here. So they just sort of say, okay, well, it's a cross.
So they just have a blanket policy, which is like causing problems. In track now, there was another runner this happened to where she tested positive for weed, and they were like, all right, you got to go. And I'm sitting here like,
I feel like weed
first off,
should be allowed in anything. Like that
right,
one should just be allowed.
Because it's just not that drug. Like, now if she tested on PCP, all right, maybe we should do something. But we're talking about marijuana, man. I knew guys that in jiu-jitsu, they smoked before they rolled, because when you get out of the focus mind and into the diffuse mind, you're better able to solve abstract problems. So I can see the advantage there. I still wouldn't call it a pure advantage, but I understand it because we're looking at, physical, what we can measure. Very hard to measure the effectiveness of someone's thinking and decision making. All right.
Right.
On the other end of it, though, like, man, if you're gonna tell me that we make somebody ineligible to run the 100-meter dash, I think that's that's insane.
Yeah, hopefully they get that stuff worked out. All right, that's a rabbit hole. We can
and what's crazy? Like,
about.
I'm drug-free completely. I just think the rules are stupid. Because people go, oh, it's because you smoke. No, I don't touch this shit. I just think the rules are dumb.
No, I think that's a good disclaimer. It's kind of like when you're on CNBC and you're talking about stocks. You're gonna want, they flash across the bottom like, this guy doesn't have any investment in this stock, because it's like it changes the way you look at your answer. You're totally bipartisan. Okay, so we're getting down to the wire here. We talked about some failure habits. How about your top success habit that you really feel like you live your life by, that has just propelled your momentum and your life and has helped you to get to where you are? And maybe we'll follow that up with how you were able to either do it to form it or to keep it going using sort of like tricks of your mind to sort of make sure that you do it. So,
okay. So I'm getting better at the traditional stuff. Like, I know having a kid, man, it has really made me a more organized person, because you don't realize how much time you kind of waste just in your life until you really don't have free time anymore. Then you have to pick and choose, and you go, wow, I was really bullshit when I was doing work. What used to take me 2 hours, I can get done in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But to give something revolutionary, different, I don't know, I'll just say what would work for me, especially during the hell years where I was in school, fighting, and in the Army, and working on my website and doing a relationship. One, really high tolerance for pain. But here's the kicker. You have to decide what pain you're going to suffer. So I guess even before we get to that, and I say this all the time to everyone who asks my advice about decisions, etc. I go, look, you have to figure out which painful outcome you can live with. It is very easy and natural for us to compare the upside, and that's where we make the error. I think we have to compare, okay, this goes poorly. How equipped am I to deal with it? Am I willing to do what it takes, assuming it takes the absolute worst, and then compare those two things? That by itself has guided every decision I made in the past 11 years. Everything from what to study, to why to stop drinking, to what to do on the internet. It was all like, if this goes badly, how well can I handle that? All right. To even who I date, I tell Anna all the time, look, man, everybody's a good sailor when the sea is calm. And show me a relationship when things are rough. That's going to tell you way more. And that's way more valuable, because when things are good, they're good. When they're bad, though, you got to have a system to deal with that. If you know what your triggers are, if you know what makes you angry, you can just avoid it, or you can have a system in place. But that's the most important thing to me is really assessing the negative and deciding if you can deal with that.
I love
and
it.
then pick which one you can deal with.
Yep.
And I'm just going to add to that, improve your life by taking stuff away via negativa. Too many people are obsessed with adding things. And I think the big changes happen when you take stuff away, especially people. As weird as that sounds, people are really afraid of cutting other people off. And I'm like, look, you ain't got to cut them off. But ask yourself, really, like, what is this relationship? What is it costing you? What's the negative? And you focus on the good times. That's why you keep kicking it with the person. But think about what it's costing you and make the decision based on that. But in terms of just habits and life and stuff, get rid of stuff. Get rid of stuff. Constant simplification.
Yeah, I use the word messes to kind of talk about that. Like, we all have messes in our life. And to me, I'm referring to what you're saying in terms of, like, there's just extra stuff, and it's just causing frustration and overwhelm and negative things in your life. And it's like, okay, what can I remove? It's just like that little Asian lady. Pardon me, I don't remember her name. It's probably not the best way to refer to her. But there was this, like, organization show a couple years ago on Netflix, and, like, it just went nuts. And it was like just this little Asian lady would come to people's houses and just get rid of all their stuff and, like, organize it. And she just had this ability to just see and ask the right questions of, what do you need and what don't you? And it's like every single person would come out of that and be like, oh my God, I feel so free and so good, and I've gotten rid of all this crap, right? And it's like, that's not just the stuff in your closet, that's your whole life. Right. So that's a really good one. So thank you. Those are actually really good, two really good ones. And you mentioned the word system. I should have probably set it up. I used the word gamification, but really what that means is, like, right, what is your system to be able to do these things? And your tolerance for pain one, your brain hack, your mind hack that you're using to sort of reduce the friction is you go straight to, well, what's the worst case scenario here? And then all of a sudden it's not so scary, right? So you're kind of tricking your brain right there into sort of going, okay, like, yeah, that would suck, but my life wouldn't be over. Let's go. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that in terms of this, but yeah, I always say though, the worst thing that'll happen is I'll die. And how bad is that? You know, it's funny, now that I got a kid, it's very unnatural for me to think like that now. It just clicked. Because before it was like, oh, if I die, that's it. No big deal. But now it's like, all right, man, now you'll grow up about a dad or whatever. So certain things, right? But still, in general, that's a good thought. Like, get in the habit of asking, what's the worst thing that'll happen?
It's great, man.
Look, man, all the single people, the love of your life is probably on the other side of that question. You're afraid of asking somebody out or talking to some to that person, you just, whatever it is that draws you to them.
I love it.
And
I love it.
the worst thing that'll happen to be like, get out of here, creep. And how bad is that?
Man, that's such a great mindset hack, right? And that's a system that you've come up with that who knows where it came from, but you developed it along the way, right? And that's what this show's about. And this is a great way to end it is we talk about these great things and things that have happened throughout your life and failures, but then it's like, okay, you come out on the other side and what's this top thing that you're doing that's allowing you to survive and thrive in the world? And then let's give the audience a little nugget on how you're doing it. Because I feel like a lot of people that do what we do and talk about these great things, it's like, it doesn't help people to just get the lesson. They need to have some sort of at least starting point of like, okay, well, what can I do? Right. And so maybe they tweak what you said and they have their own system, but at least it's like, okay, worst case scenario. So maybe one guy puts it on the vision board, like the worst thing that can happen, like I'm going all in on this. But regardless, thank you sharing brain hack to help reduce the friction to really just move the needle in your life and gain momentum.
Awesome.
So listen to me, Mr. Edward Ashley Latimore Jr. Ashley in there. This was awesome, bro. Thank you very much for being on the show. Super little awesome nuggets of wisdom that you brought to the table. Thank you very much. Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Hey, the cool thing is that I'm Ed Latimore everywhere. Twitter, IG, Facebook, LinkedIn. Except YouTube, man. Somebody beat me there, and I'm Ed Latimore 1. And I went and looked at the channel, and it's not even there. So then they won't give it to me.
That drives me nuts.
But yeah, that's how you can find me. And my website is edlatimore.com. Sign up to my newsletter. I put out good stuff in my newsletter. And I can say that honestly, but you know why? Because I'm not writing to any SEO. I am writing what I believe pure. Just come off the rip. When you write an article for your website, if you're not just wasting money on hosting, you should be trying to make sure people discover you organically. And the best way to do that is to have some articles that hit SEO. Well, once you get on my email list, I got you. I don't need to appeal to the search engines. So sign up for the email list. And that's just at latimore.com/newsletter. And there's some good stuff in there for sure.
Well, let's keep in touch. I really appreciate you being on the show. This was awesome.
I appreciate you having me, man. You know what's great? I looked at my calendar. I was like, I remember this guy because I couldn't remember what the IG live was. And I looked up, oh, that's right. This guy hit me up like months ago.
I know. We get busy and things happen. So now what we're going to do is this is immortalized. We've got this conversation. We'll pick out some, I've been taking notes as we're going, some of the good clips, the things you've said, I've said, and we put those together in some highlight reels. We put them on YouTube. We put them on the podcast. Put them on all our social media website. So eternalized wisdom. So thank you. Thanks again, man. This is great.
Hey, thanks. I'm going to go take off and see what the kid is up to. I'm sure it's great. He's probably, he's so angry that he can't crawl. And he made a big cognitive leap this week. He's figured out how to roll with intent. And so if something's right in front of him, he zigzags his roll. He's like a Z. And I'm like, wow. It's like, I guess it's smart because that's what they're human. But it's just cool to go from like this wander rolling to like, no, I want that. And I'm going to get it. It's just fun times. You've already went through it. So, every day I discover something new. And I'm like, man, you're really cool.
By the way, I took this Yale happiness course, and what you're doing is actually one of the key ingredients to happiness in human beings, which is you're savoring moments. So many of us just tend to fly through life and I got to change this diaper and I got to do this, but you just did it right there. You're savoring the fact that he's this age, he'll never be this age again, and this is a moment that is fun and interesting and unique to you.
Because it's brand new to me. Like everything is brand new. Like everything. It's so fun. I go to see him and he went from just like, because I read this thing that like if you stick your tongue out at infants with newborns and they can do it back. So I did this for like weeks. And then one day I put the video up. We're sitting in a coffee shop. He looks at me and he just goes, only to me, not to her.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, picked it up. But that worked, and that's how it goes with a bunch of other stuff, man. It's a good time.
That's huge, guys. Don't ignore that. It's easy to just get caught up in the responsibilities and the to-dos in life, but true happiness is stepping that back and smelling the roses and realizing this moment's going to be gone forever tomorrow. So kudos to you, man.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to take off now. I'll see you.
All right, bro.
That's it for the Gamify Your Habits podcast with Will Moore. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to visit moremomentum.com to learn how you can gamify your life.